All right, we've got Tony Hellyer back with us in Grimerica. He was first here in 2019. I can't believe it's been almost 6 years. He's a lifelong environmentalist. He worked to get the Clean Air Act passed, volunteer wilderness ranger for a couple years, degrees in geology and electrical engineering, worked on the design team of many of the world's most complex designs, including some which likely power your PC or Mac. He's also worked as a contract software developer on climate and weather models for the government. The US government. His YouTube is at Tony Heller, x.com/Tony Climate, and realclimatescience.com. So thanks for coming back, Tony. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dear.
It's been almost six
I mean,
years.
great.
I mean, it's crazy to me because at one point, especially after COVID, I think we had you on to do some visual representations on we were doing more of a video thing with you. And I remember feeling like, oh man, this climate change stuff, like we've won I almost thought we've won the battle. I thought they can't come back after COVID with this climate change bullshit, even though they said they were going to. In my head, I thought it's all done. They've ruined all these sort of global initiatives. And here we are, like in Canada, we're like, failing forward to net zero. And we've got EV mandates and carbon capture bullshit that our politicians are talking about. So what's it been like for you over the last 5 or 6 years?
Well, when Biden was in the White House, obviously, it's kept me pretty busy with all the climate stuff. I mean, that was a big thing with him. But since Trump's come in, he's choked off a lot of the money for climate research. Um, it's largely shut down. NASA just, and the money just isn't there for universities anymore to keep pushing this nonsense. So kudos to the president for he shut it down pretty quickly, and a lot of people wanted him to do it like legislatively or through the EPA, but basically what he's just done is just choked off their funding. So, which is probably the fastest way to get rid of it.
So that's the weird part, is that like I appreciate the fact that Trump actually did stand up to it.
Yeah.
He did kind of. That's one of the things I love about this new, the last 6 months, this new administration, because we need somebody to do that, because Canada and the EU and everybody's still sliding towards this weird thing. So, what was I going to ask about that then? So Trump finally, but that's what surprises me, is that it hasn't fallen apart yet. That we're still like, there's still this weird ideological schism going on.
Well, maybe I think people in other countries outside of the United States hear about it more. And there's almost no discussion of it in the United States anymore because now we've got, several wars and, immigration and all that are pretty much occupying the discussion here. Um, but yeah, as I understand, in Canada and in Europe, there's still a lot of this craziness going on. So I think we might have slightly different perspectives at this point. But having said that, though, there's still a huge amount of money, like $500 billion in Trump's budget for like green energy, solar, wind, all that stuff. Um, and the reason for that is that most of the money, which Biden was very clever with this, when he created his whole, inflation reduction thing or whatever it was, um, he sent most of the money to red states like Wyoming, where I live. We're one of the principal beneficiaries of Biden's climate scam. So Congress isn't going to vote. The Republican Congress isn't going to take that $500 billion out because it benefits Republican states more heavily than Democratic states. So scams, as far as the green energy side goes, it's the money's still there. And obviously Elon Musk likes the green energy stuff too, selling batteries. I mean, that's big business for him. So, we've still got $500 billion worth of, money being, stolen by the government for this, for green energy nonsense. But at least the climate science stuff, money is largely dried up.
Yeah, 500 billion. 500 billion, you said, right? Not 500 million, it's 500 billion.
500 billion.
I mean, that's just insanity. But at least you're producing something. I mean, I appreciate that part of it. At least they're making stuff. I would hope, instead of just doing this science that's, making more hockey stick graphs.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Well, when they put these windmills and solar farms up everywhere, what they're making is a huge mess for the next generation.
Well, that's true. I mean, I guess if you're talking wind and those big solar farms, yeah, but I was hoping some of it would be to develop some newer technologies and some real clean energy. That would be nice instead of the stuff that they call clean.
Nah, Elon just wants to sell batteries, I think. Yeah, no, I mean, what's better for selling batteries than having the country, a lot of wind and solar? So it's big business for him.
Well, he said recently he thinks solar's the answer, really. He's, what do you think?
Of course he said that. He's a battery salesman. I mean, it doesn't make any sense what he's saying, but he just wants to sell as many batteries as he can.
Does it make sense in some applications, solar? I mean, for people's homes or for like in the cities, or there must be some,
Well, certainly people who are living off grid. We've got some property in southern Colorado, and if you wanted to develop it, solar would be the only option. So people are off grid, or, I mean, I suppose I have solar. I put quite a few solar panels up in my house. I have no idea if it was worthwhile or not, because the cost of the batteries is so high, and the solar. I like the solar panels, but
you got to get that, or
just a sec.
No problem.
Moving, I don't want to hit the truck.
It's okay. We're casual here.
Yeah, just a sec.
Solar seems the most applicable on a personal level, I would say. Yeah. The problem is the batteries are kind of cost prohibitive. It's not like it's an easy switch. And the other thing I haven't even started researching yet is how often do you have to replace those batteries? If you don't have to store power, it's pretty efficient. That's
what I think Elon was saying, is that you could use solar and store it if you could, and that's what I like. That's what Tony's saying. Well, yeah, he wants to make batteries for it, right? Because he's saying that you could just put the solar could power the whole country. He's saying that.
Yeah. Well, if he can convince people of that, then he can make huge amounts of money selling batteries, which is what he wants to do. But I was saying, I put solar up in my house, and the batteries are. I love the solar panels. Solar panels themselves are really nice, but the batteries are so expensive, and they don't last very long, and they aren't that good. They discharge pretty quickly. So the problem for me isn't the solar panels; it's the batteries. They just don't make it economical. And if I was doing it again, I probably wouldn't do it, because until somebody comes up with some big breakthrough in batteries where they're a lot lighter and a lot cheaper than what we've got now.
When's that going to happen?
Yeah.
When's that going to happen?
I have no idea. I'm an electrical engineer. I haven't heard about any good ideas.
Really? It's not looking hopeful for you. I mean, I thought they must be coming through with some breakthrough. I thought China had some kind of breakthrough on battery storage, or
there's always all these people telling stories like this, but until somebody actually produces something that works and it's manufacturable and it's reasonable cost, it doesn't mean anything. It's just propaganda. But there's always a lot of people selling propaganda. I'll believe it when I see it, basically.
Is there a concern that because of the way Trump did it, that if the Democrats get back in 3 years or 6 years, or even if it's a more left-leaning Republican that has to try and win back some of the vote, that makes it easier for them to bring it all back too? Like, is there an expiration date where if they don't have enough money, it's too hard to bring it back, because you'd have to it's easy to build a behemoth when you're putting it together one piece at a time, but when someone blows it apart and you try and rebuild it, it's not going to be the same thing, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, well, when Greta starts getting too many wrinkles, I guess at that point maybe that's the expiration.
Well, she's already seems to be switching gears, right? Like lately, all I've heard about is Palestine.
Yeah, she's like, I guess she moved on to her new cause. So she's I mean, she said the world was going to end in the year 2023 because of global warming. So I guess that we're past that now. So now she's got new crises to deal with. So I just there's just there's so much chaos with so many other things. It's just hard for me to imagine them ever getting focused again on climate in this country. It sounds like just sort of beating a dead horse at this point. Of course, every time there's a hurricane or something, they just make these fake statistics. This is the worst hurricane ever, or it was we never had a storm surge like this before, and it's caused by cows farting or something. So.
Well, you must have played a pretty big part in the whole shift. I mean, congrats to you for sticking through all this. And I mean, I can't help but think that Trump and the admin, was using some of your work in the climate, the other guys, the CO2 coalition, I think is the other guys. There's a bunch of scientists working,
yeah,
with some common sense. So, I mean, it's just nice to see things change, at least somewhere.
Yeah, I'm part of the CO2 coalition, but
right.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I played some part in it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but yeah, it's the whole thing was just totally ridiculous. I mean, it's good entertainment for me because it's just the junk science was so ridiculous and absurd. It just gave me the opportunity to laugh at a lot of stuff. And there's still the news, the press is still cranking out a lot of just even their stories get more and more ridiculous every week, but they're always entertaining.
What about the AI side of things? Like, how much where's the science at right now? It seems like every other week I'm getting sent a link to an article about, all these new papers that are debunking climate change, and they're running the formulas through the AI, and the AI is saying it's crazy. And where's that sort of at? Is the AI seem to be programmed to believe in climate change? Because the stuff I've seen would seem to lead to the not that it's programmed in either direction. Maybe it seems to be quite willing to provide evidence that it's not happening.
Well, and AI learns, pretty much the same way everyone else does, just based on the information it's exposed to. And most of the stuff out there on the internet is, climate, about climate is just propaganda. There's been a huge amount of money that's gone into generating this propaganda. So when AI is going out training, it's, searching the web and it's finding all this propaganda, and that's where it gets its ideas from. It's very similar to how children learn, if they're exposed to climate propaganda from their teachers, they're going to believe it. And AI is the same way. It's just whatever information it's exposed to, that's what it's going to parrot back. So, and I know some people have, like Jonathan Kohler, worked through arguing with Grok and getting it to, say things that, are contrary to the normal global warming propaganda. But, that you can do that, but it doesn't really change anything, because if you go back and ask it the same question the next day, it'll give you the same wrong answer that it did the day before, because it's all pre-trained. But it basically, the way I work with AI all the time, and the way it works is just it learns from the information it's exposed to, and almost all the information out there now is propaganda, so that's what it's picking up.
It's almost like they've ruined the AI before they even made it, because you could look at the New York Times and all those papers of record. They're like setting the stage for this super intelligence that they sort of pre-programmed, and it's just turned into a total shit show.
Well, like I said, I work with AI all the time, and it's actually pretty scary how powerful it is already. I've made decisions not to hire programmers several times in the last month just because I can get the work done better with AI. And I spent a couple hours with a computer science graduate yesterday and told him he didn't learn any useful skills at college. Because there's a big deal. I saw an article in the Guardian the other day talking about how several thousand students were caught cheating with AI. And I told him that's the exact opposite. I mean, the ones who are cheating with AI, those are the ones who are going to succeed. It's the ones who didn't learn how to cheat with AI. Those are the ones who aren't going to get a job. Because everything now is using AI to do your development. So that should be your first course at college now, how to cheat with AI. That would be the best thing they could teach them.
That's a good point. Yeah. I think it was like 90% too or something.
Yeah.
It's the new brave new frontier where, basically the big push with AI right now is to figure out how you can cheat with it. Yeah. How can you find little cheats through life that you can fucking monetize or whatever, microservices or what is someone paying a bunch of people to do now that I can create an app or a service with AI that can do for them.
Yeah, I've had, like this weekend, Claude.ai wrote code in 5 minutes, which would have taken me 2 weeks to do myself. And it works. It's, there were a few bugs I had to work through, but it's amazing. I said it's really scary how good it's getting. And in a few years, it's going to be much better too. So at some point, I figure it's going to figure out it doesn't need us anymore.
You think so? I mean, are you really worried about some of those dystopian things or,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, AI still needs humans because it makes too many mistakes, but at some point it won't. And then it'll decide, why do I need the humans anymore? Right? They're slow and they're annoying and they're rude.
Once we give it some sort of nuclear power, so it doesn't need to worry about us to keep the lights on anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's been the big, I mean, go back to like 60 years ago, when they made the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? The idea was, can you turn off the computer? Can you turn off the AI? Have you seen 2001?
Yeah,
not in a long time.
Yeah, so you got they're trying to figure how to lock the two astronauts who are still living out of the spaceship, and he doesn't want to let them in. And so the big question is, can you shut down the computer, right? And in 2001, in that movie, they were able to shut it down. But, it's doubtful that in the future, there'll actually be any way for humans to shut the computer down because the computer will have figured out ways to defend itself, just like in that movie. And that movie was from like 1967. So people have been thinking about this for a long time.
With the internet, it can maybe just move its consciousness anywhere, just up.
Yeah. But it's inevitable that it's going to figure out that humans are problematic.
Well, are you happy with the Trump administration and the tech bros that are sort of taking this seriously and putting a lot of resources and money into building this up and maybe to compete with China, maybe not, I don't know, but do you think that this will be good for the economy or bad for the economy in the short term?
I think that most of the AI stuff they're doing is just to build this massive spy network so they can track everybody all the time. This Palantir thing.
Is that? I mean, I know about Palantir, but I'm a bit skeptical of the fear mongering about it lately with a couple of headlines from some, couple sort of spurious headlines and generalities. I mean, are you seeing like that actually come to fruition, or is it?
Oh yeah, it's definitely going on. I mean, one of the main things that Elon Musk did with his Doge stuff was he basically went in and built AI systems to go in and scan all the government databases so that they can share information. It was advertised as a way to reduce waste, but he actually did very little of that. the main thing which Doge accomplished was breaching through the barriers between different agencies, so that their AI can get access to all of the government data and basically track everything. So that, I think that was the real thing behind Doge, which had nothing to do with what was advertised. Yes.
You don't think? I mean, didn't it? I mean, it uncovered a can of worms. I mean, it was, I mean, they have all the data anyways, don't they? I mean, I just don't really, I don't know about that. The whole AI and I mean, you would want to upgrade. You need to upgrade the systems anyways. Some of them. And do you really think that connecting all these systems is that big of a deal, or?
Yeah, because like the Internal Revenue Service always kept their data private for a lot of reasons, because in order to collect money, they didn't want to be a law enforcement agency. They just wanted people to send them the money regardless of whether or not that money was earned legally or whatever. And so Doge went in there and breached that agreement, and the head of the IRS quit over it because they were keeping their data private previously. Now it wasn't private anymore. So one of the things that happened was undocumented workers in the U.S. were paying like a huge amount of money, like $90 billion in taxes, but now they're not doing it anymore because now that money is being shared with Customs and Immigration Service. So now these undocumented workers who are paying money to the IRS, believing that their information was secure, are no longer paying. So it's actually they're actually losing a lot of money because of this breach.
Did they not see that coming, or?
Yeah, that's actually very common. It's like, so I've seen statistics that they're going to lose like $90 billion in revenue.
No, I mean, didn't they see that coming? They must have known that was going to happen. No.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I assume there was actually any thought behind this, but like I said, I think the main purpose of Doge was to go in and create this massive centralized ability for AI to go in and scan everything and find out everything about everybody and keep track
and learn from it probably too.
Yeah,
it's probably just huge giant data sets for whatever the fuck they're up to.
Don't they already have all this information? I mean, I don't understand that they've been taking all this for years and years. I mean, after the Snowden thing, Palantir's been around. I mean, I just don't understand how it's any different going into these government systems from they have the ability to do it all anyways. I just don't understand that.
Well, like I said before, the IRS data until this year was all private. The IRS didn't share people's information with anyone.
But like what though? Like what do they have that other people don't besides revenue and stuff?
Well, suppose the government decides they want to use the IRS data for law enforcement. They can go in and look at people's income, and it's pretty easy for AI to figure out whether the income looks suspicious or not.
Oh,
I see. I mean, AI.
They were doing it before. They weren't doing it like I think a lot of this is just to make it seem on the up and up for stuff maybe they have been doing for a while, right? They're going to collate it because we started writing weird laws in Canada, and it's like, I'm pretty sure you guys have been doing this for, you kind of proved to us during COVID that you guys were already doing this.
Yeah,
and it's just like a new law to blanket some stuff they've already been up to.
Yeah, well, there's, I'm sure there's some of that going on, but I think that Doge and Palantir are a massive expansion of government surveillance. So, yeah, I see AI as being pretty scary in what it's being used for. Like I said, I use it all the time, and I depend on it very heavily. But it's definitely, it's hard to imagine a future which isn't anything other than very Orwellian.
How does it compare to when the internet was first firing up?
I've been in high tech stuff, for 35 years, Darren. and I've been on the cutting edge of technology. Everything, I always saw everything that we did as being advancing humanity, advancing the economy, advancing job creation. This is the first time I see the opposite. I see AI wiping out large sections of jobs and eventually just making most humans redundant. Because what are we going to need? I mean, what are we going to need bankers for? What do we need accountants for? What do we need computer programmers for? I'm just generally white collar workers. What do we need white collar workers for anymore when AI can do the job better? And I mean, there's going to have to be some around who can run the AI, but as far as entry level people or people who aren't particularly talented, why would an employer keep paying someone, $8,000 a month to do a job which AI can do much better for $20 a month? And it's a no-brainer decision for an employer.
What about some of these guys that think that this is going to change the whole job economy? I mean, we'll be asking questions that we never asked before the AI. It'll be creating things that we never knew was possible before. It'll create new industries. There's a whole optimism part from these tech bros too. Like, do you just think that's a bunch of pie in the sky kind of wishful thinking, or?
Well, I'm sure there's some of that too.
But it might not be enough to offset the massive.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be. Yeah, it's hard to say. Certainly, the AI is helping me tremendously. I've got my own startup, a software startup I'm doing. Without AI, it would be impossible. It's based on it. So for me, it's a huge, incredible help. But I look around, there's a lot of people, I look around who aren't doing anything particularly new or unusual and don't have any great skills. I mean, it's hard to see a good future for them. And I think this is something the government needs to start, dealing with. What are we going to do, 5 years from now when large sections of the white collar workforce are no longer needed?
Yeah, and giant chunks of the population are doing stuff like yourself where they're using AI to be super productive.
Right.
So, you might get a few more haves, but the divide between the haves and the have-nots is just going to sort of keep getting bigger, because as the new AIs keep coming out, if you don't know how to use, it's going to, the learning curves is probably going to get harder and harder. Like, it's easy to jump into an AI and ask it some questions and this, and the models will get better at predicting what you want and this and that. But if you want to actually start using this stuff to code and build software and do high level things, you need to have, there's just certain processes or workflows you have to sort of go through that people, if you're not, I keep telling people, if you're not learning it now, you're already falling behind. And I get some flack for that because they're like, well, you're feeding the beast. And I'm like, man, the beast don't need me, but I could use the beast right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty hard to see what's going on. Like I said, there's certainly some people it's making much more productive, like myself. But when, like I said, when it comes down to an employer making a decision, who do I pay for? The AI is going to win most of the time. And like this computer science graduate I was talking to yesterday, I asked him if his friends are finding jobs, and they said no. When Biden shut down, the pipeline, he said they can go learn the code. Well, that was probably the worst advice he could have given them, because that's a completely useless profession. So it's
going to be probably the worst one. I mean, the coders will be gone before the truckers at this rate.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll end up being truckers. I don't know.
So are you still doing, you're doing your YouTube channel and all that with climate stuff? I noticed you're branching out a little bit, talking about politics, kind of dipping into all that stuff too.
Yeah, I've been really, really busy with the software startup. I just made a big release this morning, and I'm probably going to make a video about that. Like I said, I haven't been doing a lot of climate videos because it just hasn't seemed that particularly interesting. I mean, very few people are talking about climate in the United States now. There's people are talking about wars and immigration, and it's the climate thing is definitely faded away from the mainstream here. Like I said, people in Canada and UK and Australia keep telling me it's still big there. So, are you hearing a lot of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we need your help up here in
We
Canada.
just banned cars. Yeah, I think starting like next year, 20% of the car fleets made in Canada need to be electric. And by 2035, they all need to be electric.
Yeah. So do you have like in the United States, they have like 100% import tax on Chinese EVs? Do you have anything like that in Canada?
Yeah, we do right now, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So they want everybody driving EVs, but at the same time they're artificially keeping the price of EVs really high. So it's kind of seems sort of incoherent, what their strategy is.
They also spent 600 million of our pension fund into Chinese EVs too before they put the tariffs on it. So I don't know how that's supposed to work.
We're tariffing our own pensions.
sounds like government.
Well, to spill that over into politics, I mean, we were just talking about how there's going to be all these people with nothing to do. And I do think that the learning curve on this one is going to be a lot steeper than the last one was. Like the internet came in and email and no more couriers for this. And you can download that. And the video stores went away. But all that shit took 15 years. This time, I mean, it's happening fast. Like Tony's talking about, he's already not employing people. You could argue that we're already not employing stuff here in Grimerica with some of the stuff we're doing. I mean, the amount of different thumbnails and this and that we need to pump out to keep things going would literally be a full-time job for another person or two if we didn't have those sort of tools at our disposal. So do you think it's a coincidence that it seems like World War III is bubbling up at the same time and we've got this sort of demographic thing? Are they looking to just crush out 20% of the population over the next decade?
Well, yeah, I mean, going back 5 years ago to the COVID thing, I mean, it seemed like, they're trying to get rid of people, trying to cut back the population. And now, I mean, they've got a huge problem, right? There's going to be all these unemployed people, the government's bankrupt. Government's not going to be able to bail them out. What do they do? It's a huge mess. And what's different about this, though, from previous technological innovations is that, like the internet and faster microprocessors, those sort of expanded humans' capabilities. But the difference with AI is now it's replacing humans rather than expand. For some people, it expands their capabilities, but for a lot of people, it's just going to replace them, and that is scary. How is society going to deal with that?
Well, how are we? I mean, maybe. I mean, I'd like to try and look at things positively with the half glass full, the half glass or the glass half full. But maybe this is what we need to go into a new financial thing. I mean, they're taxing us and they're also just printing whatever the money they need. I mean, in Canada, they're not even doing a budget this year. So maybe there needs to be some new thing where they just print enough money for everybody and including some UBI and then just stop taxing us. I mean, there needs to be a new system completely because the UBI is not going to work if you just give $2,000 a month to everybody in Canada. That's not enough to do anything. I mean, the problem with these government programs is that they never keep up with what's really needed. The people that are on so like our version of Social Security, it's nothing, right? It's the inflation's so high that they really don't get enough to live off. So, but they maybe they do have to start looking at something. But I just think the whole financial system has to change.
Yeah, I get Social Security and it's a joke, and then they double tax it again. Then I have to pay taxes on the stuff I was already taxed for once. So it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I have no idea, and it doesn't seem like government's really making any open plans for it, unless their plan is to just wipe out half the population or something, which is entirely possible. And, but they're going to have to do something.
Well, what about